Hey all, I'm Brad, our Brave of the Woods. This coming Monday, we're going to be celebrating a very important holiday here in the US called Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So for this episode of Draw With Me, we're going to be illustrating a simple portrait of this amazing civil rights leader, out of respect for all he did to push for racial equality here in this country. Now for those of you following along today, I'm drawing on the iPad Pro using the Procreate app. The canvas I'm working on is set to 12 inches by 9 inches, and that's at 300 dpi. You can always use whatever brushes you like, and there's a really good selection of default brushes here in Procreate, especially with the Procreate 5 update. But the exact brushes I'm using are part of this brush pack called the Space Ranger brush pack, and that was made by Retro Supply. So if you want to pick that up, there's a link below that you can go find those brushes. All right, so pick up your tools, follow along, and draw Martin Luther King Jr. with me. For step number 1, we're going to start with a sketch. And when I draw portraits of people, no matter what style I end up working in, I always start with this loose representational sketch. It kind of keeps it so that I'm staying observational and picking up on details of the person. So in order to do that, we're going to have to pull up some references of Dr. King here. So we'll kind of pick and pull from these different image references. I'm going to just move this off to the side, and then we'll start sketching, and you'll see what I mean. So kind of start with the head shape. And then where the face is going to sit on the head is important. So, I do this little cross thing. I'm sure you've seen it before. But this way you can kind of see where the face will sit on there. I'll try to draw this dark enough so you can see it. And then his neck down here. His ears. And then we'll do eyes, eyebrows. Try to be pretty quick and efficient. I don't necessarily want to take up a ton of time doing this, but I just kind of want to see where all the body parts are going to be. And in doing so, and as I'm looking at the sketch like this is helping me kind of understand what his face looks like. It helps me, gives me that time to kind of study it a little bit before I really start stylizing. So it's not incredibly important if it's super accurate. It's just more important that you understand how his face shape works. So this kind of hair does a little bit of a widow's peak there. Pull that down. He's got a real tall forehead. I feel like. So do I. So it's not a slight to him at all. Let's do his neck. And then we do his tie. So you can see all this. But this just gives us the chance to place everything and kind of get our scale correct and basic body shape and where we want it on our canvas. So I think we'll add like a microphone or something here. That'd be good. And maybe a little pin on here. And yeah, I think that'll be good. And then we'll do some sort of circle or something behind him. Step number 2, simplify. Now that I have a somewhat representational sketch here of Martin Luther King Jr., I want to stylize him a little bit. So the hard part is knowing how much to alter or remove in an image before it stops looking like him. Right now I guess it doesn't look a ton like him, but when I start removing even more pieces, sometimes you can lose the actual person. So I don't want to go the other route either, which is the caricature route, and it looks a little cartoony because you're over accentuating some of the features on the body. So neither of those. I just want to make this look very graphic. The way we're going to do that, and I've blown him up on the side here, I'm going to use this one specifically as my reference so that this will be a little bit easier for you to see as well. I'm just going to lower the opacity on this layer. I'm going to add a new layer, and we're going to draw right on top of him. And we're going to look for two different things. Basic shapes. So we're going to simplify to basic shapes, and then we're also going to simplify the amount of angles and just try to look for angles that we can make the same. That sounds weird. We're gonna consolidate our use of angles by trying to make them all look the same. I'll show you what I mean. Shapes first. His head's kind of oval, but if I was to draw him, obviously there's a lot more shapes on his head than what we have here. If you're actually to draw the contour, kind of go at the chin, the eyebrow, the, right there on the jowl, all those kind of things are gonna be lots of different shapes, but it's basically this. It's basically the side of an oval. So that's what I'm gonna draw. Like that. We're gonna simplify some of these little rigid areas. And then we're gonna go and do things like the chin, same thing. I'm gonna go around, bring that up, and trying to, there could be other shapes there. It could be a little more complex, but we're gonna simplify. Same thing with like the back of his head. I have this right back here. I can just go straight down on the back of his head to the top of his hair there and just make one straight line. I don't need to go and make a bunch. So you kind of have an economy of lines things going. You're kind of saving angles and the amount of angles and line work that you're doing. You don't do a ton of it because then things start feeling like they're related to each other. A great example of that would be like right here on his neck. So actually his chin, he's got this little indent on his chin. So we'll give him like a little indent right there. Little line does the trick. I know it's not that severe, but in some pictures it does feel like that. So I'm gonna just do that. But I'm gonna take that same line and maybe I'll just continue it on. So maybe his neck doesn't start right there. Maybe his neck starts over here or over here, but I'm gonna again try to save on the economy of lines. So I'm gonna try to save that line right there. I'm gonna even have it go further. I'm gonna have this go all the way down. So imagine this one line. So now what that's doing is that's creating our neck, that's gonna be creating our collar, it's gonna be creating everything. Let's go on this point right here. Let's make that the edge of his jacket, his suit coat. And then we're gonna go in here and I'm just gonna pick a point right about here and go to this point. So try to find matching points. So what I mean by that is let's just consider this end right here as a point. I'm not gonna sit and put an angle right over here because then I got this weird little artifact right there. If I can help it, if it doesn't change how much it looks like him a whole lot, I'm gonna get away with it and go straight to that line. Conserve my lines, and then I'm gonna go over here, do the same type of thing, kind of bring this down, and if that looks weird, let's just erase it. Do you see what I'm doing? So I'm trying to just have the same amount of angles. And even if you're looking at this angle right here, oh, my hand keeps touching stuff over here. Look at the angles. If this angle is the same as this one, so if you're talking about angles, you got the little box there in there to kind of show you what that angle looks like. Try to keep them the same. Maybe even keeping this one the same right there. You see that? Those are all the same angles. And that can sometimes help you make everything feel like it's related to each other and it starts to pull the whole piece together. So that's what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna keep going on all of this, and with the power of fast forwarding, and you'll be able to see it finished. Okay, so I finished the sketch here, and you can see all the different areas where I've conserved lines, where I've simplified shapes, like right here where I've gone from the collar to the neck, or where I've gone from, this one's worth 3 points, where I got the chin, the neck, and the collar all in one. And then I looked for points where I could join everything together. They could have all been, up here, but then you start moving, or right over here, or I could have angled those. But we're trying to make this feel a little bit more graphic, and those aren't as important as the ones in his face. So we can kind of get away with everything around it, and as long as we get the main face shape, and that's why I love drawing suits and things like that, because it's so easy to get those angles. But now we need to do step number 3, which is coloring the main shapes with a flat color. And I already have some colors blocked out here. Oh, just so you know, the brushes that I'm using, we said the Space Ranger brushes, but the one that I've been using for sketching was my fine technical pencil, which is the number 2. I'm gonna go to number 4, the form builder. That's my favorite one, and I'll show you why. I'm actually gonna bring this just underneath. Make a new layer underneath this one, and I'm gonna lower the opacity again. And then I'm going to block out these main shapes that we've drawn. And you're gonna want them separated on separate layers because you can even do the hair as one right here. That's totally fine. We're gonna block these out right now, and then we're gonna go and take, if we have them on separate layers, then we can alter them however we want individually. So I'm gonna just quickly start filling this in, and I won't show you all of this. You can kind of see it for yourself. Oops. Kind of color the rest of that in. And like I said, if it would make it easier, so you only have to draw things once. So I'm going to draw that hair in, right? That edge once. If I add another layer, tap on it, hit clipping mask. Now if I go to a different color, like let's say we want his hair to be the black. Now I'm just working within that shape. Right there. Then anything I do is going to stay inside that shape, and it makes your drawing just a lot quicker, and it makes it more accurate, so you don't have to keep going over it a million times. But that's the main idea. And then I'm going to go down, like I said, I'm going to do all the different parts but on different layers. So if I'm going to do this suit, oops, like that, start drawing my lines. And I'll just continue on until I have all my main shapes blocked in. Now that we have the shapes all blocked in, this is where it gets really fun. Next is step number 4, which is line work. And when we use line work, we're gonna do very minimal line work. And we already have the shapes there, so you're only adding lines to define the edges and really areas of focus. So the face is the big one. So if I put on, I'm gonna turn that layer on of our original sketch here, and then I'm gonna start just drawing over top of it. Now the brush that I'm using, this time I think I'm gonna use 15 or 16. I like both of those. They're kind of the Conte brushes, and they're pretty cool. They got a nice little raw edge to them. So I'm gonna use number, what did I say? 15 in the Space Ranger set. And then I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna start drawing in details, like his eyeballs. So these are details. I could go in here. What I mean by not using a ton, so that might be a little too heavy on the eyeliner there. So it looks like he does. Let's see. Okay. But I don't want to go too much. Like I could kind of go like this and, you know, create the bottom of the eye and stuff like that. It's just too many lines. In this style, it's just too many lines. You got to kind of just pick and choose which lines are most important, which I think is kind of fun. It makes it kind of like a puzzle. So then we're going to draw another eyeball right there. And then we'll kind of go in here. And the cool thing about this brush as well is the fact that if I push hard, you get a really nice opaque stroke. But if I go really light with it, it's got a really, really neat texture. So I'm going to go in here and draw these eyebrows. Kind of go light at first, and then you can go darker, because his eyebrows kind of taper off out here. They kind of got a little peak to them. So then you can come in there and darken that up however much you need. Same thing over here. Usually your eyebrows start darker than taper off, so on his especially, mine are that way. Might be a little thicker than that. Okay, and then on the nose, like I said, we're not putting in crazy line. We forgot the best part about having a nice sketch is that we've already made a lot of big decisions before we got to this point. But now I just wanted to show you the quality of that line work, which is kind of a cool line. But right here, so I'll put it right here, but I don't necessarily need a ton of lines over here. Maybe I put one right here, but my guess is I'm gonna want to put some shadowing under there. So this might not be necessary, who knows. I can continue on the face. Picking and choosing, like I said, you don't have to do all the lines, but like right here on the lapel, that will make it kind of look nice and defined. You want to be able to see where that is. Anywhere else that you wouldn't expect. So maybe on the side of this, maybe it could just some edges get a little lost, and that kind of helps, even like right down there. So if I turned off that sketch layer, you can really see that it's just helping define some of those areas so they feel like they're separate pieces. Not that I need to do a ton of line work in here. And I can continue going on here until I've dropped in all the lines that I want, and I can always put more in and then take some out if I want, but you need one whole layer dedicated to just some line work. Once all of our line work's in, step 5 is texturing. And texturing is by far my favorite part. It's the part that makes this all feel so much more unique and gives it a really cool look. So we get to play around here. Now, there's some lost edges here, and I could do lines. Let's go on here. I could do a line. Let me get a black here and show you. I could go in here and add lines here. And sometimes I do that, and that's maybe you like that look. But what I want to try is, what does that look like if I just did this? I'm gonna put another layer underneath here. I'm gonna use maybe this super grainy Conte, which is 17. I'm gonna steal this color. I try to repurpose colors too, that's another trick. I don't need to get something close to that, I can just repurpose that same one. And then I can just add like a cool little texture under here. It ends up kind of looking like a shadow. If I make that larger, then look, I can just create this cool little textured look, but it also, not only is it kind of a cool look, but it also gives you that dimension and sets off the tie from the collar, which is a nice little trick. And then I'll go in and do the same type of thing over here. I'm just gonna add another thing. I'm gonna go in here and start building up maybe some shadows with a little bit of that texture. If I was to do solid black, it'd be too dark. So what's nice about some of these like textured brushes is being able to go in there and just kind of make it feel a little bit lighter, not so heavy underneath the neck. Right there. There you go. Get that little shadow underneath there. Maybe for the whole suit even. Check this out. We'll do the whole suit. And I'll try to do it really, really lightly and I'll give it almost like a pattern. Oh shoot, I didn't do that, did I? Oh, I have to do it. Gotta make it a clipping mask. So now I can go and just lightly go over the whole suit. And it's kind of cool. It gives it this really neat textured look. I'll clean this up later. Try not to go over it too many times, but you get the idea. You can add this little cool textured look to his jacket. You can go back to maybe one of these little messy, well, maybe I'll go back to number 4, the form builder. And I'm gonna take this darker red color, add a new layer, clipping mask, and I can go in here and I can add another texture. Now you can do whatever you want. You can do polka dots, you can do whatever. But I'm gonna go in here and just do a quick, drop in some lines for the ties pattern. Maybe go a different direction here so it looks like it's knotted. But very easy little things you can do. And the last thing, I'll do a few more little touch-ups, little details here and there. But the last tip I'll give you is see all these really solid edges. Everything, we made it almost look vector on the main shapes because we made them very geometric. So what we can do to lighten that up, let's take that color. Maybe I'll use that rough. There's also, we have one that's called Rough Edger, I believe, in here. Do I have that? Oh, Edge Maker. Is that cool looking? Wait, where am I at? Let's do right here. That is kind of a cool edge, but I want to do something crazier. We'll go in here and make this big. So now I've already done that. You can work right off of this if you want. You can erase that edge if you'd like. It's a little trick I do. And then I go and I just fill in that part with a little bit of a textured brush. Cool thing about Procreate again is you can kind of lock shapes. So if I hold that, it kind of holds a little texture around the edge. And you can be, you can be kind of more bold with it if you want, around the edge. And you can give it just a really neat little textured edge. You can do the same thing for this, like right underneath his jacket. I'll steal that blue color. I'm gonna go shrink that a little bit. And look, just add a little bit of just some imperfections there on the edge. Just gives it a cool little quality. Almost like it was screen printed or something like that. You get little imperfections when you're hand printing these things. cool. You can do the same thing with his hair. Even if you have a shape you already want, like I said, I can go in there and I can erase some of that, and I'll redraw it back in now with that texture. So I can kind of give him a fade. There we go. Like that. And I press a little harder. Kind of blend that all together. Now he's got a little fade over there. But just some easy tips on how to add those textures. But overall, just keep playing around with this and make sure I'll just add enough texture to make it interesting, but not too much to distract. That's the key. All right, I think that's it. I think we're done. I really like how he turned out. How did yours turn out? You can always share your drawings from any of these Draw With Me episodes by posting and tagging @BraveTheWoods on Instagram. There's a good chance I'll showcase it in the next Draw With Me episode. So thank you for drawing with me. Remember that everybody knows how to draw. You just have to keep putting in that mileage and you'll see your own unique style come forward. And as always, if you enjoyed drawing with me in this video, please give it a like and please subscribe so I can continue putting out more awesome videos for y'all. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time.